Welcome to the Extreme Mindfulness Challenge, which is really about mastering being. How do I be who I am? And if I'm going to be who I am, what are my guideposts? Well, I like to say that it's being my words. We just finished Mind at Rest or Brain Mastery, where we begin to observe the space between the nows and see reality the way that it really is. Then we take that skill and adapt it into an old memory in which we had some kind of emotional reaction like frustration or fear or anger or depression. And we recalled that feeling and then took a look to see what there was that was hidden, that was not seen at the time, that we could apply to it. Asking ourselves the question, what experience are you looking for? Why did I have this thing in my current life? Why did I notice it? Because I have sometimes worse things occur in my life, but I just don't notice them. But I noticed this and I created an emotional response that ended up being like a habitual behavior. So by learning Mind at Rest and by learning how to look beyond what is obvious and to see that which is hidden, we learn to cure emotional allergies. In those two practices, you gave yourself some words. Hopefully you had a takeaway, some thought that you took away. And now the goal is to be those words. At the end of the emotional mastery recording, I started talking about making a transition between the words that came up for you and actually being those words. And I gave you a 7-step process. Now we're going to look at what kind of skills or what kind of attributes you have inside you that'll help you be those words. What kind of skills will be necessary for you to implement that? Remember now, if you were to be interrupted from this call, have a takeaway. Okay, I just had that experience. Now, how do I want to apply that in my life? What experience am I looking for? Write it down, journal it, and then make a point to discuss it 3 times during the day with your family members, your peers at work, or just strangers on the street. And if anybody else starts doing what you'd written down or does something related to it, talk to them about it. Gee, why did you think of that? How come you're doing that? And begin a conversation in your life. Life is simply a scenario. It's a story. It's a conversation. And the conversation is based on the labels that you give that conversation and the words that you tell yourself. So we're moving through this idea of authenticity today. The first attribute. This is our genetic code. This is the part of us that's actually authentic today. That's what makes us who we are. That's what creates our liabilities and our limitations. I am organically unique, and that's absolutely true. Every human being is like a snowflake, right? Every snowflake is unique. Every human being is unique. I have abilities and I have limitations. Unless I realistically, authentically address the fact that I have certain abilities and that I have certain limitations, I'm not going to make it anywhere on the planet. And I think it's really critical because to own all of your abilities. You have abilities that you don't own. Maybe you're a singer. Maybe you're a writer. Maybe you're a runner. Maybe you're a thinker. Maybe you're a lover, right? And these are abilities that are innate with you, but for some reason you've left them behind. You've forgotten them. You've given them away. The challenge is to bring them back. Maybe you have some limitations, right? Maybe you don't have the longest legs. You're not the fastest runner. You don't have the biggest feet. You're not the best swimmer. Maybe the words don't come to you quickly. There are other things that you can do, though, that by applying your abilities and by living within the realistic limitations that you have, you can adapt and become amazing. Being exactly who you are. We're going to talk about adaptation tomorrow. We'll be talking about adaptation tomorrow. But right now, just own your authenticity. The idea is you have to start from where you are, right? And if you're not really clear about where you are, then start talking to yourself. That's what our challenge this week is on self-disclosure. Speak your truth boldly and with loving kindness, and then listen to yourself, for crying out loud. As you get good with listening to yourself, you're going to find that most people don't even hear their own words that are coming out of their mouth. And that's our challenge. And that's an opportunity. I can be more authentic just by listening to my words. Now, I have certain power words that relate to my authenticity here. Those power words are bios. Bios is the word that means life in Greek. Isn't that interesting? And then we have biosphere, which are regions of the surface, atmosphere, or hydrosphere, of which the Earth is occupied by living organisms, a biosphere. So if there's an area where there are living organisms, this is called a biosphere. And you have a biosphere in your body. This biosphere is called a biome. It's a large, naturally occurring community of flora and fauna occupying a major habitat, a forest, tundra, your intestines. You know, over 50% of the DNA is in your body is not even human. And it's really important to acknowledge that, because if I don't take care of my body, if I don't put the right flora and fauna in my body, I'm not going to be healthy, and that's going to limit my ability to respond and my ability to account. Genome is an important concept. This is, of course, relates to genetic code. You know, it's the genetic material that's present in a cell or in an organism. This is a key word, is morphogenesis. Do you know what morphogenesis means? Morphogenesis is a biological process that causes a tissue or organ, or you, to develop its shape by controlling the spatial distribution of cells, especially as controlled by the growth, differentiation, and movement of the cells and tissues. There's a morphogenesis occurs between you as an infant and you as an adult. And you as an adult is no accident. There's no way you can grow up to be like me, or your mom, or your dad even, or your brother, or your sister. You are going to be uniquely you. So why not get acquainted? Why not be your own friend? Why not have some fun, right? And this idea of morphogenesis is created because of energy. We're going to talk about this. I want you to add your own power words to your authenticity. But this idea of authenticity comes from the genetic code, which comes out of the earth. And then as we develop as beings, then we become adults. Well, even though I'm a genetic here, even though I'm baby, even though I'm just a small physical being, there's a plan for me. That plan for me is my energy body. My energy body is not restricted to growth and death like it is here on this planet. And so, in a way, my destiny is set. Now, exactly the events of my destiny aren't set, but the fact that I'm going to be an adult one day, and the fact that I'm going to maintain that fact that I have two legs, the fact that I'm going to be more and more uniquely me as I get older is obvious to everybody but the person who's growing up. And so why not anticipate that? Why not begin with the end in mind? What I invite you to do is to sit down right now and write down an epitaph for yourself. Assume that you live a long, long life, that you outlive any of your ancestors and you live longer than ever before. And now you get to die, but before you get to die, having lived this long, beautiful life, God says to you, okay, you get to come back to earth and speak at your own funeral. And so what you really ought to do is start preparing a talk. Write it down there. Well, I lived a long and fruitful life. And during my life, I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. I touched this person, I touched that person. These people were grateful. Those people were grateful. These people were mad at me. And be the guy who speaks at your own funeral and write your own epitaph with all the wonderful things you've done, and the family that you created, and the way you touched their life, and the legacy you left for them. Let that epitaph, then, your creative, imaginative outcome of life, be your plan. It's real simple. Write an epitaph. And if you want to write an epitaph and send it to me, I'd be glad to review it with you. And we'll change some words around, because most people, when they do this process, they write in some pretty negative words. And so this whole idea of learning how to be positive with yourself, learn how to create a lattice for you to grow on. You can create a lattice of your own words. You already have a spiritual lattice. It's you. You already have a spirit being that's you, that your body is growing around. Why not create a lattice of words as well, since this is the week of self-disclosure? And so here we go. This idea of being authentic is easy when you're a baby, because you got no choice. You start growing, and from conception to annihilation, whenever that is, you're going to be uniquely you. Now, this idea of conception is kind of interesting because I've been studying zygotes lately. I've seen a video on zygotes. Did you know that your grandparents gave your parents the seeds for you? Did you know that your parents gave you the seeds for you and the seeds for your offspring? Did you know that you are giving the seeds to your offspring for you, but also for their offspring? That's kind of interesting how connected we are. In fact, the Native Americans believe that we are connected to 7 generations past and 7 generations future. And I'm going to say that the only reason why modern science isn't telling us 7 generations is because they don't have the intuition that the Native Americans had. And so celebrate this uniqueness. Celebrate your genetic code as a contract with the universe. Why not go ahead and surrender to it? Okay, this is me. What can I do with me? Take yourself on like a home improvement project, right? And it all starts with your epitaph, because of course, this is what words are all about. And that's what our challenge this week is about the words. So understanding morphogenesis, let me give you another word, teleology or teleology. This is a big time word for living life, not from the causes of events, but the outcomes of the events. It really doesn't matter what the cause of the event was. In fact, if you look back to try to discover the cause of an event, the more you study it and the more you look back, the more you'll find that that cause is different than you thought it was when you first looked back. So to live life based on your understanding of causes is faulted already. Instead of living your life from the causes of your life, why not live your life from the experiences you want to get? What experience are you looking for? What genetic code do you have? What would you like to see yourself do in the future? Your destiny is hidden from you only by the gravity of time. If gravity weren't the way it was, your brain would be connected to the future. At least that's what some physicists are saying right now, that there's actually a difference in the movement of time between your head on your body and your feet on your body based on your gravity. And that slight difference creates this lag, creates a delay that has you see time looking backwards instead of time looking forwards. And I'm going to say, if you practice mind at rest, if you practice this practice, you're going to get better and better as to seeing into the future. Part of it is you're going to say this is going to happen. You're going to make it happen because you're going to be your word. But that's only part of it. The important thing for you to get here is to honor your biology and the sources and cycles of life. Honor your biology and the sources and the cycles of life. And so moving ahead, where does this morphogenesis come from? Well, it comes from the fact that your energy, your genetic energy, has a toral opposite, just like an electric charge, a plus and a minus. When you're young, all this growth, all this energy, all this epigenetic, all this genetic stuff down here is a plus. And you just keep going and you just keep going. And you have faith you're going to be you. You never stop when you're 2 years old and say, oh my goodness, what's tomorrow going to be like? You're busy creating tomorrow, right? By being in the now. Why not get busy creating tomorrow by being in the now like a kid does, right? Then as we get older, what happens is we get this vision of what's possible, but we get held back by the gravity of our past. So at first, our vision drives us forward, and then we cross a certain threshold in our lives where our past holds us back. Isn't that interesting? This is the yin and the yang of growth. This is the self-help system that's built within. This is this constant torque, the constant pushing and pulling, the constant inning and outing, the constant orbiting and reverse orbiting of life. And so surrender to it. Live, just own your destiny. The only thing that's keeping you from your destiny is your belief that the past has a hold on you. Otherwise, you just live in the future right now. You'd always be doing something wonderful, exciting. This concept, by the way, is the concept of integrity. When we look at authenticity and we look at design or mastery or a higher power or a connection to all things, that's our integrity. Just to dream about the future is not integrous without holding on and looking at really what's going on in the present. And just living in the present is fine, but until you attach that to your vision of the future, until you attach that to your higher power, then you're going to grow in various directions instead of in the direction for the full measure of your creation. So integrity comes from, first of all, owning I am unique. But it also comes from owning my destiny, owning my higher power, owning my purpose in life. So here's your affirmation. Even though I don't see my destiny and my perfection, I trust myself in this moment. I have all that I need for my mission today. That's all I'm looking for, my mission in this moment. I trust my higher power. That concludes our mastering being, this part of our conversation today. Our weekly challenge is listen to yourself, for crying out loud. Make sure that every word that comes out of your mouth builds towards your destiny and doesn't distract. It's amazing how many times I hear people talking about things that hold them back. They go, yeah, I'd like to do that, but, and then they list 15 things. Why not say, I'd like to do that, and here are the things that are working for me. Get committed. Have integrity. Integrity is a unification. It's a dual of genetic code and destiny, genetic code and perfection, your current power and your higher power, your future power, your destiny. This is the yin and yang of integrity. But for now, and before we leave, get your takeaway. What is the thing that calls to you right now? What is inspiring to you? Write it down. And just live today pondering that question. Look it up on Google. Ask other people about it. Hey, what are you doing in terms of this? And when you notice somebody acting on this, marvel at that. Notice the serendipity. Notice the connection. Notice the destiny of it all and say, gee, how come you did that? I've been working on that today. That's been my goal for my experience today. That's the experience I'm looking for. And here you are manifesting it. Isn't that exciting? Live on purpose 3 times today in the next 24 hours. May you and I and all beings experience a full measure of our potential. May we each experience a full measure of our purpose in life. Live your takeaway each day. That's your purpose. May you and I and all beings experience the full measures of our creations. Aho. And remember, you have a superpower. Your superpower is stopping to breathe. Continue your practice. We'll see you next time around.